I've always been a curious person, but nothing fascinated me more than the eerie experience of sleep paralysis. It's like a scene from a horror movie, but it's actually a very common sleep disorder with a scientific basis. Have you ever woken up in the dead of night, completely aware of your surroundings, your mind racing, but utterly unable to move a single muscle? Your eyelids might flutter open, and you can see the shadows dancing on your ceiling. Hear the faint sounds of the night, even feel the weight of your blanket. But your body feels like it's encased in concrete, and no matter how hard you try, you can't twitch a finger or even call out for help. For some, this immobility is accompanied by something even more unsettling: vivid and terrifying hallucinations, shadowy figures lurking in the corner, a crushing weight on their chest, or disembodied whispers in their ear. Welcome to Sleepster, your guide to understanding the mysteries of the night. This terrifying state is known as sleep paralysis, and while it can feel incredibly isolating and frightening, it's a surprisingly common phenomenon with fascinating roots in the science of sleep. In this video, we're going to delve deep into the neurological processes that cause this temporary paralysis and explore how our brains can conjure such vivid and often terrifying realities during these episodes. Get ready to uncover the truth behind the fear and imagination of sleep paralysis. Sleep paralysis stands as one of the most baffling and frightening experiences an individual can undergo, precisely because it occurs at the fragile boundary between consciousness and unconsciousness, between the familiar world of waking reality and the boundless, often chaotic realm of dreams. It is a phenomenon that has transcended cultures and centuries, shaping folklore and terrifying individuals long before modern science offered its explanations. At its very core, sleep paralysis is characterized by a temporary inability to move or speak while falling asleep or, more commonly, upon waking. Imagine the unsettling sensation of your mind being fully alert, your thoughts clear, and your senses processing the familiar sights and sounds of your bedroom, yet your body remains utterly unresponsive. It's a profound state of conscious imprisonment, a direct, visceral experience of being trapped within one's own physical form, unable to exert even the slightest command over one's muscles. This fundamental disjunction between an awakened mind and a stubbornly inert body is the hallmark of every sleep paralysis episode, forming the chilling foundation upon which its more bizarre and terrifying elements are often built. The personal anecdotes surrounding sleep paralysis are remarkably consistent across diverse demographics, painting a vivid picture of profound helplessness and growing panic. Many accounts begin with the individual stirring from sleep, perhaps sensing an unusual shift in the atmosphere of the room, or feeling an inexplicable sense of dread that precedes the physical immobility. As consciousness flickers into full awareness, the first attempts to move are often subtle, a slight wiggle of the toes, an attempt to open the eyes wider, or a strained effort to lift a hand. These initial, often subconscious commands are met with a terrifying void-no response. No movement, just a frustrating, unyielding stillness. The brain sends the signals, but the body refuses to obey, creating an immediate and profound sense of alarm. This frustration quickly spirals into full-blown panic as the gravity of the situation sets in. The individual is awake, fully aware, but utterly incapable of even calling out for help. The experience is often described as feeling heavy, as if an invisible weight is pressing down on the chest, making breathing difficult and shallow, further fueling the sense of suffocation and impending doom. This feeling of being pressed down, coupled with the inability to expand the chest fully, is a common and particularly distressing element of sleep paralysis. It's not necessarily a physiological struggle for air, but rather a perceived one, deeply unsettling due to the lack of control. The attempts to draw a deep breath feel shallow and restricted, intensifying the primal fear response. Beyond this suffocating pressure, Individuals frequently describe a variety of other physical sensations that heighten the terror. These can include a tingling or buzzing sensation radiating throughout the limbs, a feeling of vibration within the body, or even a sense of falling or floating, detaching from the bed. Some report feeling extreme cold or intense heat localized to specific parts of their body or spreading like an icy grip. These somatic experiences are not merely uncomfortable. They are often interpreted by a terrified and partially dreaming mind as external forces acting upon them, strengthening the belief that something malevolent or unseen is present and actively restraining them. The sheer vividness and overwhelming nature of these physical sensations contributes significantly to the perceived reality of the episode, blurring the lines between what is truly happening to the body and what the anxious mind is conjuring. The psychological impact of conscious paralysis is immense. Imagine the profound vulnerability of being completely aware of your surroundings, perhaps even seeing shadowy figures or hearing unsettling sounds, while being utterly unable to react, defend yourself, or even scream. This lack of agency in the face of perceived threat is a cornerstone of the terror associated with sleep paralysis. The brain, hardwired for survival, immediately registers the immobility and potential sensory input as a life-threatening situation. When the primal fight-or-flight response is triggered, but the flight or fight mechanism is physically suppressed, the result is an overwhelming surge of fear and anxiety with no outlet. This internal conflict between an urgent desire to move and the complete inability to do so creates a feedback loop of escalating panic. The mind searches frantically for an explanation for this unprecedented state, often resorting to the most immediate and culturally ingrained narratives of helplessness, being attacked, possessed, or targeted by unseen entities. This search for meaning in the inexplicable fuels the psychological torment, transforming a mere physiological glitch into a profoundly traumatic experience for many. Furthermore, the environment in which the sleep paralysis occurs, typically one's own bedroom, paradoxically amplifies the terror. The very space that is supposed to be a sanctuary, a place of safety and repose, becomes the stage for a private horror. Familiar objects can take on sinister forms in the dim light, and ordinary sounds, the creaking of a house, the rustle of leaves outside, the hum of electronics can be distorted and amplified by a terrified mind, interpreted as the sounds of an approaching intruder or a lurking entity. The realization that you are awake in your own bed, yet utterly unable to move, screams, or even twitch a finger to indicate your distress, isolates the experience to an extreme degree. A battle fought entirely within the confines of your own skull, making the experience intensely personal and isolating. The contrast between the familiar comfort of your sleeping space and the absolute terror of your internal state creates a jarring and disorienting reality that is difficult to process, even after the episode has ended. This intimate setting transforms a neurological event into a deeply personal, often traumatic encounter. For many, the most enduring legacy of sleep paralysis is the profound fear of sleep itself. After experiencing such a terrifying episode, the act of going to bed can become fraught with anxiety. The comfort of drifting off to sleep is replaced by a sense of dread, a fear of re-entering that vulnerable state where control is lost. This anticipatory anxiety can, ironically, make individuals more susceptible to future episodes, creating a self-perpetuating cycle. The memory of the helplessness, the vividness of the perceived threats, and the sheer terror can linger for days, weeks, or even years, leading to chronic sleep anxiety, insomnia, and a reluctance to fully relax into sleep. This post-episode apprehension is a significant aspect of the sleep paralysis experience, highlighting its deep psychological impact beyond the transient moments of the episode itself. Understanding this core experience, the conscious paralysis, The physical sensations, the psychological vulnerability, and the lasting emotional imprint to comprehending the full spectrum of sleep paralysis. Setting the stage for a detailed exploration of its scientific origins and the imaginative horrors it conjures. Got it. We'll move directly to Section 2, aiming for an initial comprehensive draft. And then we can expand from there if needed to reach your word count goal for this section. Section 2, the REM, sleep connection, REM atonia, and its protective role to truly grasp the perplexing nature of sleep paralysis. We must embark on a deep dive into the architecture of sleep itself, specifically focusing on the most enigmatic and dynamically active phase, REM sleep. REM, an acronym for rapid eye movement, is more than just the stage where our most fantastical and vivid dreams unfurl. It is a critical neurobiological state, indispensable for myriad physiological and psychological functions, including emotional regulation, memory consolidation, and overall cognitive restoration. The notion that sleep is a singular, undifferentiated state of unconsciousness is a pervasive misconception. In reality, a typical night of human sleep is an intricately orchestrated symphony of distinct stages, each serving unique purposes, which collectively form a sleep cycle. This cycle, lasting approximately 90 to 110 minutes, is repeated multiple times throughout the night. We transition from lighter non-REM NREM stages, characterized by progressively slower brainwaves and decreased muscle activity, into deeper restorative slow-wave sleep. It is after this initial NREM progression that our brains typically shift into the first, and often most intense, bout of REM sleep. This transition from the deep stillness of NREM into the paradoxically active state of REM is precisely where the conditions for sleep paralysis are set, making the study of REM sleep the cornerstone for understanding this eerie phenomenon. The most defining and perhaps most crucial physiological characteristic of REM sleep, aside from the rapid eye movements, is a profound and pervasive muscle paralysis. This natural and essential protective mechanism is scientifically termed REM atonia. This isn't merely a passive relaxation of muscles. It's an active, neurologically induced suppression of voluntary muscle movement throughout the body, with the notable exceptions of the muscles responsible for breathing, eye movement, and occasionally small twitches of facial muscles. Imagine the intricate complexity of our dreams. We might be flying, running, fighting, or dancing with an intensity that mirrors real-life physical exertion. If our motor systems remained fully functional during these vivid dreamscapes, our physical bodies would inevitably act out these nocturnal narratives, potentially leading to self-injury or harm to bed partners. REM atonia acts as an evolutionary safeguard, a sophisticated neural kill switch that ensures our physical immobility while our minds are vigorously engaged in the dream world. It's a brilliant biological adaptation, a testament to the brain's capacity for self-preservation, ensuring that the rich tapestry of our inner experiences remains safely confined to the mental realm, preventing accidental harm and allowing for uninterrupted, safe dreaming. The specific neurological pathways and neurotransmitters responsible for orchestrating REM atonia are a testament to the brain's intricate design. At the heart of this process lies the brainstem, a vital, evolutionarily ancient part of the brain located at the base of the skull, connecting the cerebrum with the spinal cord. Within the brainstem, a complex network of neurons becomes highly active during REM sleep. These specialized neurons initiate a cascade of biochemical events, leading to the release of specific inhibitory neurotransmitters. The primary players in this chemical symphony are GABA, gamma-aminobutyric acid, and glycine. These neurotransmitters are crucial for their suppressive effects on neural activity. When released by brainstem neurons, GABA and glycine flood the motor neurons, the efferent nerves that transmit signals from the central nervous system to the muscles, instructing them to contract. Their action is to hyperpolarize these motor neurons, effectively increasing their negative charge and making them significantly less responsive to excitatory signals. This chemical off switch ensures that even if your brain consciously or unconsciously sends signals to move a limb during a dream, those signals are effectively blocked before they can reach the muscles, rendering the body temporarily paralyzed. This precisely choreographed chemical inhibition is what underpins the profound muscle relaxation, bordering on flaccidity, observed during healthy REM sleep. Sleep paralysis, therefore, can be understood as a temporary, albeit profoundly unsettling, misfiring within this otherwise seamlessly integrated system. It represents a momentary discord in the delicate choreography of sleep-wake transitions. It occurs when an individual's conscious awareness emerges from sleep, typically upon waking. But the brain's REM atonia mechanism has not yet fully disengaged. In essence, the cognitive and sensory parts of the brain awaken, bringing conscious perception and thought online, while the motor control centers remain stubbornly under the influence of the inhibitory neurotransmitters characteristic of REM sleep. It's akin to your car's engine starting and the lights coming on, but the parking brake remains firmly engaged, preventing any movement. This asynchronous transition leaves the individual in a unique and terrifying liminal state, fully conscious and often acutely aware of their surroundings, yet utterly incapable of voluntary movement or speech. The body, still in its dream, protective state of paralysis, becomes a prison for the awakened mind. This disorienting overlap is the fundamental mechanism driving the experience of sleep paralysis, transforming a normal physiological process into a source of intense fear and confusion, and directly leading to the bizarre and terrifying perceptual phenomena that often accompany it. Understanding this precise neurological disconnect is key to demystifying the experience and underscores the remarkable complexity of our sleeping brains. Okay, let's move on to the initial comprehensive draft for Section 3. Neurological mechanisms, brainstem, neurotransmitters, and muscle suppression. Section 3. Neurological mechanisms, brainstem, neurotransmitters, and muscle suppression. Having established that sleep paralysis stems from a temporary disjunction between an awakened mind and a body still held captive by the muscle inhibition of REM sleep, it becomes essential to delve deeper into the specific neurological machinery responsible for this state. This isn't a random occurrence, but a precisely orchestrated neurobiological event, involving intricate pathways and specialized chemical messengers within the brain. At the heart of this intricate system lies the brainstem, an evolutionarily ancient, yet profoundly vital structure located at the base of the brain, seamlessly connecting the cerebral hemispheres to the spinal cord. Far from being a mere conduit, the brainstem acts as a sophisticated command center, particularly crucial for regulating fundamental involuntary functions like breathing, heart rate, consciousness, and, critically, the sleep-wake cycle. Its strategic position allows it to relay critical information between the brain and the body, making it the primary orchestrator of the profound muscle atonia that characterizes REM sleep. Without the precise, timely signaling from the brainstem, our nightly dreams could pose a significant physical risk, highlighting its indispensable role in maintaining our safety during sleep. Within the brainstem, a specialized cluster of neurons, particularly those located in the pontine reticular formation and the locus coeruleus, become exceptionally active during REM sleep. These neurons initiate a cascading sequence of biochemical events designed to achieve widespread muscle paralysis. Their activation leads to the meticulous release of specific inhibitory neurotransmitters into the neural pathways that control voluntary movement. Neurotransmitters are the brain's chemical messengers, responsible for transmitting signals across synapses, the tiny gaps between neurons. In the context of REM atonia, the two most prominent and heavily researched inhibitory neurotransmitters are GABA, gamma-aminobutyric acid, and glycine. These powerful chemicals act like molecular brakes on neuronal activity. When they bind to specific receptors on target neurons, they make those neurons less likely to fire an electrical impulse. This is crucial for muscle suppression by inhibiting the motor neurons. GABA and glycine effectively prevent the commands from the brain from reaching and activating the muscles. It's a beautifully precise system that ensures our bodies remain still while our minds are vigorously engaged in the dream world. The precise mechanism by which GABA and glycine achieve muscle suppression is a marvel of neurochemical engineering. Once released by brainstem neurons, these inhibitory neurotransmitters travel across the synaptic cleft and bind to their respective receptors on the motor neurons located in the spinal cord. When GABA binds to its GABA receptors, it opens chloride ion channels, allowing negatively charged chloride ions to rush into the motor neuron. Similarly, when glycine binds to its glycine receptors, it also facilitates the influx of chloride ions. This influx of negative charge effectively hyperpolarizes the motor neuron's membrane potential, making it significantly more negative and thus pushing it further away from its firing threshold. In simpler terms, it makes the motor neuron exceptionally resistant to any excitatory signals that would normally tell a muscle to contract. Even if the brain sends a strong move command, the motor neuron is rendered unresponsive due to this powerful inhibitory influence. This hyperpolarization ensures a profound and widespread muscle flaccidity, effectively disconnecting the brain's motor commands from the physical body, maintaining the safety of the dreaming individual by preventing them from physically acting out their dreams. The disruption that leads to sleep paralysis occurs when this intricate system falters during the transition out of REM sleep. Normally, as we exit REM sleep and move towards wakefulness, the release of these inhibitory neurotransmitters gradually ceases, and the motor neurons are released from their hyperpolarized state, allowing voluntary muscle control to return seamlessly. However, in an episode of sleep paralysis, this process is delayed or incomplete. The conscious mind awakens, regaining full sensory perception and cognitive awareness, but the brainstem continues to pump out GABA and glycine, keeping the motor neurons inhibited. It's a physiological lag where the brain's internal alarm clock for consciousness has rung, but the unlock mechanism for the body's muscles is still stuck in the sleep position. This asynchronous awakening creates the terrifying sensation of being consciously trapped within an unresponsive body. Your brain perceives itself as fully awake, yet the fundamental pathways for muscle activation remain profoundly suppressed, leading to the complete inability to move or speak, even as you desperately try to break free. Furthermore, the areas of the brain that govern fear and emotion, particularly the amygdala, a key component of the limbic system, are highly active during REM sleep. During a typical dream, this heightened emotional activity contributes to the vivid and often emotionally charged nature of our dreams. In sleep paralysis, when consciousness emerges while atonia persists, this hyperactive amygdala contributes significantly to the overwhelming sense of dread and panic. Without the ability to move or react, the brain's innate threat response system goes into overdrive, interpreting the immobility and potential sensory anomalies like sounds or perceived presences as genuine danger. This contributes not only to the intense fear, but also, as we'll explore later, shapes the content of the vivid hallucinations that often accompany these episodes. The precise interplay between the lingering muscle suppression and the awakened, fear-prone conscious mind creates the unique and distressing reality of sleep paralysis, a testament to the complex and sometimes vulnerable nature of our brain's nocturnal operations. Okay, let's move forward with the initial comprehensive draft for Section 4, Common Triggers, Sleep Deprivation, Irregular Schedules, and Stress. Section 4, Common Triggers, Sleep Deprivation, Irregular Schedules, and Stress. While the core neurological Mechanisms of sleep paralysis lie in the asynchronous transition from REM sleep. It's equally crucial to understand that certain lifestyle factors and physiological states can significantly increase one's susceptibility to experiencing these unsettling episodes. Sleep paralysis is rarely a standalone disorder. Rather, it often serves as a jarring signal that something is amiss with an individual's sleep hygiene or overall well-being. Identifying and addressing these common triggers is paramount for individuals seeking to mitigate the frequency and intensity of their encounters with this terrifying phenomenon. These triggers don't directly cause the underlying brain anomaly, but they create conditions that make the brain more prone to that momentary misfiring in the sleep-wake switch. Understanding these external and internal stressors provides a powerful pathway toward regaining control over one's nocturnal experiences and fostering healthier sleep patterns. One of the most widely recognized and potent triggers for sleep paralysis is sleep deprivation. When the body consistently fails to receive adequate hours of restful sleep, it attempts to compensate for this deficit, leading to a phenomenon known as REM rebound. Sleep, as we know, is a vital restorative process, and insufficient sleep creates a significant physiological debt. As the brain tries to catch up on lost sleep, it prioritizes the most intense and restorative stages, and REM sleep is a prime candidate. Consequently, during subsequent sleep cycles, particularly after a period of prolonged wakefulness or chronic short sleep, the brain often enters REM sleep more quickly and spends a disproportionately longer amount of time in this stage. This intensified and extended REM period, while beneficial for compensating for the sleep debt, paradoxically increases the window of vulnerability for sleep paralysis. The longer and more intensely the brain is in REM, the greater the chance that the conscious mind might awaken before the REM atonia has fully subsided, trapping the individual in that terrifying liminal state. It's like pressing the accelerator harder on the REM phase, which, while intended to restore, can also make the disengagement process less smooth and more prone to glitches. Closely linked to sleep deprivation is the impact of irregular sleep schedules. Our bodies are governed by an internal biological clock, the circadian rhythm, which dictates our natural sleep-wake cycle over a roughly 24-hour period. This intricate system is highly sensitive to regularity. Consistent bedtimes and wake-up times help to entrain this rhythm, signaling to the brain when it's time to prepare for sleep and when it's time to awaken. When this rhythm is constantly disrupted, for example, by varying bedtimes on weekdays versus weekends, social jet lag, working shift work, or frequently traveling across time zones, it throws the delicate balance of sleep regulation into disarray. The brain struggles to anticipate and smoothly transition between sleep stages, including the critical shift out of REM. This erratic signaling can lead to fragmented sleep, frequent awakenings, and an increased likelihood of waking up precisely during the REM phase when atonia is still active. The body's internal clock becomes confused, unable to reliably predict when to activate or deactivate the various sleep-related processes, thereby creating fertile ground for episodes of sleep paralysis to occur. Maintaining a consistent sleep schedule is arguably one of the most powerful behavioral interventions for preventing sleep paralysis beyond the realm of sleep habits. Stress and anxiety emerge as significant physiological and psychological catalysts for sleep paralysis. In our modern, fast-paced world, chronic stress has become an unfortunate constant for many, and its pervasive effects extend deeply into our sleep architecture. When an individual experiences high levels of stress, the body's sympathetic nervous system goes into overdrive, releasing a cascade of stress hormones, most notably cortisol. Elevated cortisol levels can interfere with the production and regulation of neurotransmitters essential for healthy sleep, such as serotonin and melatonin, which play crucial roles in regulating mood and inducing sleep. This hormonal imbalance can lead to difficulty falling asleep, frequent awakenings throughout the night, and a general disruption of normal sleep stages. Fragmented sleep, characterized by constant interruptions, pushes the brain to enter REM. Sleep more frequently and perhaps less efficiently, again increasing the risk of an asynchronous awakening. Moreover, the psychological burden of anxiety can create a vicious cycle: the worry about not sleeping well, or the fear of experiencing. Sleep paralysis itself generates more stress, which in turn further degrades sleep quality, making future episodes more likely. It's a compelling example of how our waking emotional state can profoundly influence our nocturnal vulnerabilities. Several other factors, though perhaps less common or direct, can also contribute to the occurrence of sleep paralysis. Sleeping on one's back supine position has been frequently cited in anecdotal reports and some observational studies as increasing the likelihood of sleep paralysis. While the exact physiological reason isn't fully understood, theories suggest it might be related to increased pressure on the diaphragm or a slight compromise in breathing, which could indirectly influence sleep stability and transitions. The use of certain medications, particularly those that affect neurotransmitter systems like some antidepressants or ADHD medications, can alter sleep architecture and potentially trigger episodes. Similarly, substance use, including alcohol, caffeine, and recreational drugs can severely disrupt natural sleep cycles, leading to fragmented sleep and an increased propensity for REM rebound. Even seemingly innocuous habits, like eating heavy meals close to bedtime or excessive screen time before sleep, can interfere with the body's natural wind-down process, contributing to poor sleep quality and potentially increasing susceptibility. Recognizing these diverse triggers and understanding their impact on the delicate balance of sleep is the crucial first step in empowering individuals to take proactive measures to mitigate their risk and reclaim peaceful, undisturbed nights. Okay, let's proceed with the initial comprehensive draft for Section 5, Types of Hallucinations, Visual, Auditory, and Tactile Experiences. Section 5, Types of Hallucinations, Visual, Auditory, and Tactile Experiences, perhaps the most terrifying aspect of sleep paralysis, often surpassing the fear induced by mere immobility, is the vivid and utterly convincing array of hallucinations that frequently accompany these episodes. These are not vague, fleeting images or muffled sounds. Rather, they are complex, multisensory experiences that, in the moment, are indistinguishable from waking reality. For the individual undergoing sleep paralysis, these hallucinations can transform a bedroom into a stage for a personal horror show where the brain, caught between two states of consciousness, projects frightening imagery and sensations. It's crucial to understand that these hallucinations are not a sign of mental illness or an external malevolent presence. They are neurological phenomena, products of a brain still partially in a dream state while the conscious mind has awakened. Yet, their impact is profoundly real, often leaving a lasting impression of dread and anxiety. The most commonly reported, and perhaps the most archetypal type of sleep paralysis hallucination, is the intruder hallucination. This involves the vivid perception of a threatening entity or presence in the room. Visually, this can manifest as shadowy figures lurking at the foot of the bed or standing ominously in the corner of the room. These figures are often indistinct, amorphous blobs of darkness, yet their presence is felt with an overwhelming sense of malevolence and impending doom. Sometimes, the hallucination can be more specific, depicting a tall, gaunt figure, a cloaked individual, or even, in rare cases, a more detailed monster or demon, often with piercing eyes that seem to bore directly into the individual. The shadows in the room can twist and morph into these terrifying shapes, fueled by the brain's desperate attempt to make sense of the fear and paralysis. The perceived movement of these figures, even if just a slight shift or a slow creep closer to the bed, heightens the terror exponentially, transforming the static scene of paralysis into a dynamic threat. This powerful visual component often forms the centerpiece of the most frightening sleep paralysis narratives, tapping into primal fears of invasion and vulnerability. Beyond visual specters, auditory hallucinations are incredibly prevalent and equally disturbing. These can range from subtle, eerie sounds to intensely loud and jarring noises that seem to emanate from within the room or even within one's own head. A common auditory hallucination is the sound of heavy breathing, often perceived as coming from very close by, sometimes directly over the individual's face, amplifying the sense of suffocation and invasion. Whispers, often unintelligible but undeniably sinister, are frequently reported, contributing to the feeling of being observed or talked about by unseen entities. Some individuals hear low growls, menacing laughs, or guttural sounds that evoke a sense of bestial threat. Other auditory experiences can include loud bangs, footsteps creaking across the floorboards, keys rattling, or even specific unsettling words being uttered. These auditory phenomena are particularly disorienting because they often seem to defy the logic of the physical space, appearing to come from an empty room or from sources that aren't actually present. The brain's auditory cortex, still partially active in a dreamlike state, misinterprets ambient noises or even internal neural static as meaningful and terrifying sounds, adding another layer of perceived reality to the nightmare of sleep paralysis. Perhaps the most visceral and physically impactful hallucinations are the tactile experiences. These involve the sensation of being touched, pressed upon, or physically manipulated by an unseen force. The classic old hag or incubus, succubus folklore often stems directly from these tactile hallucinations, where individuals describe a crushing weight on their chest or abdomen, making it feel impossible to breathe deeply. This sensation of immense pressure is terrifyingly realistic, contributing directly to the feelings of suffocation and helplessness. Beyond generalized pressure, people frequently report feelings of being held down by invisible hands or restraints, being dragged off the bed, or even being levitated. Other tactile sensations can include feeling cold spots, a chilling breeze, or sensations of being pricked, poked, or stroked. The feeling of being smothered by a pillow or having hands clasped over one's mouth, despite no physical object being present, is also a commonly reported and deeply disturbing tactile hallucination. These sensations bypass the visual and auditory senses and directly engage the somatosensory cortex, making them feel incredibly real and immediate, enhancing the perceived physical threat and amplifying the overall terror of the episode. The combination of complete immobility with these vivid tactile experiences makes sleep paralysis feel like an undeniable physical assault, rather than a mere dream. The interplay between these different types of hallucinations can create a truly overwhelming multi-sensory experience. An individual might simultaneously see a shadowy figure, hear sinister whispers, and feel an oppressive weight on their chest. This synchronized assault on multiple senses makes the hallucinations profoundly convincing and difficult to dismiss as mere products of the mind, even after the episode has passed. The brain, in its attempt to make sense of the bewildering state of conscious paralysis, constructs a coherent, albeit terrifying, narrative using available sensory fragments and internal fear responses. This is why the hallucinations are not random. They are often tailored by the individual's deepest fears, recent experiences, and cultural exposure to scary stories. The brain, seeking a cause for the intense fear and immobility, conjures up scenarios that logically explain the inexplicable, often defaulting to the most primal and threatening archetypes. These vivid sensory deceptions are the primary reason why sleep paralysis has been historically attributed to malevolent spirits, demons, or aliens across cultures prior to modern scientific understanding. Understanding the various forms these hallucinations can take is the first step toward demystifying them and recognizing them as products of our own wonderfully complex, yet sometimes chaotic brains. Beyond the physical paralysis and the vivid multisensory hallucinations, what truly defines the agonizing experience of sleep paralysis for many is the overwhelming and often primal emotion of fear. This isn't just a mild apprehension, a profound, visceral terror that can range from intense dread to absolute panic, often feeling life-threatening in the moment. To understand the source of this pervasive fear, we must turn our attention to one of the most ancient and powerful parts of our brain, the limbic system. Often referred to as our emotional brain, the limbic system is a complex network of structures, deeply involved in processing emotions, motivation, memory, and arousal. Its heightened activity during a sleep paralysis episode is a key neurological factor that transforms a mere physiological glitch into a profoundly terrifying psychological ordeal, coloring every sensation and perception with an undeniable sense of threat and impending doom. The central player within the limbic system, particularly concerning fear, is the amygdala. This almond-shaped cluster of nuclei located deep within the temporal lobe acts as the brain's primary threat detection and fear response center. It is responsible for rapidly processing emotional stimuli, especially those related to danger, and triggering the body's defensive reactions. During typical REM sleep, the amygdala is highly active, contributing significantly to the emotional intensity and often bizarre content of our dreams. This heightened amygdala activity is what can make dreams feel so real and emotionally charged, whether they evoke joy, sadness, or fear. In an episode of sleep paralysis, when consciousness emerges while the body remains paralyzed in a state akin to REM, this active amygdala goes into overdrive. The sudden awakening into immobility, coupled with the lingering REM-related brain activity, is interpreted by the amygdala as an immediate, life-threatening situation. Without the ability to physically react, to fight, or flee, the amygdala's fear signals are amplified and uncensored, flooding the conscious mind with intense panic. The unique brain activity during a sleep paralysis episode creates a perfect neurobiological storm for escalating fear and anxiety. While the motor cortex, responsible for voluntary movement, is inhibited, and the prefrontal cortex, which governs rational thought and executive function, may not be fully online, other areas remain highly active. The parietal lobe, involved in body awareness and spatial reasoning, can be distorted, contributing to feelings of disembodiment or external pressure. The temporal lobe, which processes auditory information and complex memories, can generate the sounds and voices often heard. But it is the hyperactivation of the limbic system, particularly the amygdala, in conjunction with these other active areas, that drives the emotional terror. The brain attempts to make sense of the overwhelming sensory input, the perceived inability to breathe, the auditory disturbances, the visual shadows through the lens of extreme fear. This leads to a misinterpretation of benign internal sensations or ambient environmental stimuli as threatening external presences, such as the classic intruder or incubus archetypes. The brain, seeking a logical explanation for the extreme panic and immobility, creates a narrative of being under attack, which is then vividly experienced due to the dreamlike state of the perceptual systems. This state of heightened emotionality is further exacerbated by the brain's natural tendency to seek explanations and create coherent narratives, even from fragmented or ambiguous information. When an individual wakes up paralyzed, their brain receives conflicting signals: conscious awareness waking state versus muscle atonia REM state. This neurological paradox creates significant cognitive dissonance. The limbic system, already primed for fear, interprets this dissonance and the lack of physical response as an imminent threat. Without the ability to move or shout, the primal fight-per-flight response, normally a life-saving mechanism, becomes trapped. The adrenaline surges, the heart races, and breathing becomes shallow. All physiological markers of extreme fear, but there's no physical outlet for this energy. This internal physiological response then feeds back into the brain, confirming the perception of danger and creating a terrifying feedback loop that rapidly escalates the panic. The brain essentially projects its internal fear onto the external environment, populating the perceived reality with the very things it fears most, amplified by the amygdala's unchecked activity. Moreover, the phenomenon of out-of-body experiences, OP, sometimes reported during sleep paralysis, can also be linked to the brain's attempt to reconcile conflicting sensory information, particularly involving the parietal lobe, which processes spatial awareness and the sense of self within the body. When the brain receives signals that the body is immobile, but the mind is fully aware and perhaps sensing an external presence, some individuals might experience a dissociation, a feeling of floating above their body or observing themselves from a distance. This highly unusual and disorienting sensation, while not always terrifying, can contribute to the overall strangeness and uncanniness of the episode, further activating the limbic system as the brain struggles to comprehend such an extraordinary departure from normal perception. The limbic system, with its deep connections to memory and emotion, then integrates these bizarre perceptions into the terrifying narrative, cementing sleep paralysis as an experience fundamentally driven by an interplay between compromised motor control and an overactive, fear-generating emotional brain. While the neurological mechanisms provide the indispensable framework for understanding sleep paralysis, explaining the how of the immobility and the brain's capacity for hallucination, they don't fully account for the specific, often deeply personal, content of the terrifying experiences. This is where the fascinating interplay of psychological interpretation, individual imagination, and deeply ingrained cultural influences comes into play. The brain, particularly when caught in the liminal state between sleep and wakefulness, is not a passive receiver of data. It is an active interpreter, a storyteller that attempts to make sense of ambiguous or contradictory information. When confronted with the bewildering state of conscious paralysis and the brain's innate fear response driven by the limbic system, as we discussed, the mind desperately seeks a coherent narrative. This quest for explanation, coupled with heightened emotional states, often leads the brain to draw upon an individual's unique tapestry of experiences, anxieties, and the shared myths and beliefs of their culture, shaping the terrifying reality of the sleep paralysis episode. The profound influence of personal fears and anxieties on the content of sleep paralysis hallucinations cannot be overstated. Our minds are storehouses of every experience, every fear, every unsettling image we've ever encountered, whether consciously or subconsciously. When the brain is thrown into the disorienting state of sleep paralysis, primed for threat detection and unable to rationalize, it often reaches for familiar, fear-inducing archetypes to explain the inexplicable. For example, if an individual has a deep-seated fear of suffocation or confinement, the sleep paralysis episode might manifest as an overwhelming pressure on the chest, a feeling of being buried alive or tightly bound. Someone with an anxiety about home invasion might perceive a shadowy figure lurking at the foot of their bed, hearing footsteps or the sound of a door creaking open. Even recent media consumption can play a significant role. Watching a horror movie before bed or reading a particularly unsettling story can prime the brain with vivid, fear-laden imagery that it then projects onto the canvas of the sleep paralysis experience. The brain essentially populates the void of paralysis with the very content that evokes the strongest emotional response, leading to a highly personalized horror scenario that feels terrifyingly real because it taps directly into the individual's most vulnerable psychological points beyond individual fears. Cultural beliefs and folklore have historically provided a powerful interpretative lens for sleep paralysis experiences. Long before scientific explanations emerged, Across diverse cultures and throughout history, societies have developed rich mythologies to explain the frightening sensation of being awake but unable to move, often attributing it to malevolent supernatural entities. In Newfoundland, Canada, it's the old hag who sits on one's chest, causing breathlessness. In Japan, it might be a kanashibari, bound or tied by metal, sometimes associated with a vengeful spirit. Many African and African-American cultures describe the witch riding your back or nightmares as a physical burden. In parts of China, it's ghost pressing on the body. Scandinavian cultures speak of the mare, a spirit or demon that rides on people's chests, inducing nightmares and breathlessness. These cultural narratives provide a ready-made warlow framework for the brain to interpret the overwhelming sensations of sleep paralysis. When an individual experiences the immobility and chest pressure, their culturally informed mind, under extreme duress, instinctively attributes it to the familiar demon or witch of their local folklore. This cultural priming demonstrates the incredible power of shared narratives in shaping individual perception. Even during states of altered consciousness, the brain's innate drive for narrative coherence is a key psychological process at play. When faced with the paradoxical state of being consciously awake but physically paralyzed, the brain struggles to integrate these conflicting streams of information. It attempts to construct a logical, albeit terrifying story to explain the anomaly. The fear generated by the limbic system, combined with the sensory misinterpretations, visual distortions, auditory phantom sounds, tactile pressures, forms the data points for this narrative. The brain then fills in the gaps, often with content from personal fears or cultural archetypes, to create a reason for the paralysis and the perceived threat. This means that while the physiological basis of sleep paralysis is universal, the specific demon or attacker, seen or felt, is often a projection of the individual's mind, molded by their unique psychological landscape and the collective unconscious of their society. It's a fascinating example of how our brains are constantly striving to make sense of our experiences, even when those experiences are a result of internal physiological glitches rather than external reality. Furthermore, the power of suggestion and expectation can subtly yet significantly influence the experience. If an individual has previously heard vivid descriptions of sleep paralysis, or if they have a pre-existing belief in supernatural phenomena, their brain may be more primed to interpret the sensations of an episode in a specific, often terrifying way. This doesn't mean the person is fabricating the experience, but rather that their existing cognitive frameworks provide a template for the brain to manifest the hallucinations. The very anticipation of a frightening experience can heighten the emotional response during an episode, making the fear more intense and the hallucinations more vivid. This feedback loop, where fear fuels the hallucinations and the hallucinations, in turn, fuel more fear, is a powerful psychological component of sleep paralysis. Recognizing this interplay between an individual's mental landscape and the raw neurological signals is a crucial step towards demystifying sleep paralysis, moving it from the realm of the supernatural into the understandable, albeit complex, domain of mind-body interaction. Okay, let's move forward with the initial comprehensive draft for Section 8, Overcoming Sleep Paralysis, Establishing Regular Sleep Habits. Section 8, Overcoming Sleep Paralysis, Establishing Regular Sleep Habits after delving into the unsettling science and psychological nuances of sleep paralysis. It's crucial to shift our focus towards empowerment and practical strategies for regaining control over our nights. While sleep paralysis can feel profoundly terrifying and uncontrollable, the encouraging truth is that it is often a benign, albeit distressing, sleep phenomenon that is significantly influenced by, and often alleviated through, the adoption of healthy sleep practices. It's not a sign of a deeper mental illness, nor is it caused by malevolent forces. Rather, it's frequently a symptom of an underlying disruption in one's sleep hygiene. Therefore, one of the most fundamental and effective strategies for minimizing the frequency and intensity of sleep paralysis episodes lies in the diligent establishment and maintenance of regular sleep habits. This foundational approach directly addresses the chaotic sleep patterns that so often trigger the asynchronous brain activity leading to paralysis, offering a powerful first line of defense against its unwelcome intrusions. The human body, at its core, is a creature of rhythm, intricately governed by its circadian clock. This internal master clock, located in the suprachiasmatic nucleus SCN of the hypothalamus in the brain, orchestrates our biological processes over an approximate 24-hour cycle, dictating when we feel sleepy, when we are most alert, and when. Various hormones like melatonin, the sleep hormone, and cortisol, the wakefulness hormone, are released. A consistent sleep schedule, meaning going to bed and waking up at roughly the same time every single day, including weekends, is paramount for entraining the circadian rhythm effectively. When your internal clock receives consistent cues about light and darkness, and consistent signals about activity and rest, it becomes finely tuned. This robust entrainment of the circadian rhythm ensures smoother, more predictable transitions between the various sleep stages, particularly the delicate shift out of REM sleep. By providing your brain with predictable timing, you reduce the likelihood of it misfiring and waking your consciousness while your body is still in a state of REM atonia. This consistency creates a stable physiological environment that minimizes the opportunity for the glitch of sleep paralysis to occur. The detrimental effects of irregular sleep schedules are often underestimated in their capacity to disrupt the delicate balance of sleep architecture, making individuals significantly more vulnerable to sleep paralysis. Consider the common phenomenon of social jet lag, where individuals maintain one sleep schedule during the work week and drastically shift it on weekends, staying up later and sleeping in significantly. This inconsistent pattern creates a mini-jet lag effect for your internal clock, constantly confusing it about the true time of day and the appropriate timing for sleep and wakefulness. Similarly, shift workers, whose schedules regularly rotate or involve working through natural sleep hours, face chronic disruption to their circadian rhythms. When the brain doesn't have a reliable rhythm to follow, struggles to efficiently manage the transitions between non-REM and REM sleep. This often leads to fragmented sleep, where awakenings are more frequent and a higher propensity for REM rebound. During REM rebound, the brain, starved of its essential REM sleep, attempts to compensate by entering this stage more quickly and spending longer periods in it during subsequent sleep cycles. While serving a restorative purpose, this increased or intensified REM sleep also paradoxically widens the window during which sleep paralysis can occur, as the conscious mind is more likely to awaken during this prolonged state of atonia. Therefore, prioritizing a consistent bedtime and wake-up time, even if it requires disciplined adherence, is a cornerstone for building resilience against sleep paralysis beyond the clock. The duration of sleep also plays a critical role in preventing sleep paralysis. Chronic sleep deprivation, as discussed in a previous section, is a major trigger. When you consistently shortchange your sleep, accumulating a sleep debt, your brain attempts to recover that lost sleep by pushing you into REM sleep more aggressively. This can lead to a more intense and often less stable REM state, increasing the probability of waking up while still paralyzed. Ensuring you consistently get an adequate amount of sleep, typically 7 to 9 hours for most adults, allows your sleep cycles to progress naturally and completely, reducing the compensatory REM rebound that can trigger episodes. It's not just about the hours, however, but the quality of those hours. Fragmented sleep, even if it adds up to enough hours, can still contribute to instability in sleep transitions. Therefore, optimizing for both sufficient quantity and uninterrupted Quality of sleep is essential for stabilizing your sleep architecture and fortifying your brain against the misfires that cause sleep paralysis. Establishing regular sleep habits isn't merely about setting an alarm. It's about cultivating a deep respect for your body's innate biological rhythms. This includes not only consistent bedtimes and wake-up times, but also being mindful of your routines leading up to sleep. Avoiding large meals, heavy alcohol consumption, excessive caffeine, and stimulating activities close to bedtime all contribute to a smoother transition into sleep and a more stable sleep architecture throughout the night. Your body thrives on predictability, and by providing a consistent, supportive environment for sleep, you enable the intricate neurological processes that govern sleep and wakefulness to operate in harmony. This consistency helps to resynchronize your internal clock with your external environment, reducing the disconnect that causes sleep paralysis. It empowers you to take proactive control over a phenomenon that often feels inherently uncontrollable, turning fear into a manageable aspect of your sleep journey. Okay, let's proceed with the initial comprehensive draft for Section 9. Stress reduction and bedtime routines. Practical strategies for prevention. Section 9. Stress reduction and bedtime routines. Practical strategies for prevention beyond the foundational. Importance of regular sleep habits, a crucial element in mitigating the occurrence of sleep paralysis, and indeed in fostering overall sleep quality, lies in effectively managing our daily stress and cultivating a calming, consistent bedtime routine. In our modern world, chronic stress and pervasive anxiety have become silent epidemics, silently eroding our mental and physical well-being, and profoundly disrupting the delicate neurochemical balance that governs healthy sleep. When the mind is racing with worries, the body remains in a state of heightened arousal, making the smooth transition into and out of sleep stages, particularly REM, exceedingly difficult. Therefore, adopting deliberate strategies to reduce stress during the day and establishing a tranquil pre-sleep ritual are not merely beneficial for general well-being. They are powerful, practical interventions that directly address key triggers for sleep paralysis, empowering individuals to reclaim peace in their nights. The intricate connection between stress, anxiety, and sleep disruption is well established in neuroscience. When an individual experiences psychological stress, the body's primitive fight-or-flight response is activated, mediated by the sympathetic nervous system. This activation triggers the release of stress hormones such as cortisol and adrenaline from the adrenal glands. While adaptive in acute, life-threatening situations, chronic elevation of these hormones creates a state of physiological hyperarousal. Cortisol, in particular, can interfere with the production and regulation of crucial neurotransmitters involved in sleep regulation, such as serotonin, a precursor to melatonin, the sleep-inducing hormone, and GABA, the primary inhibitory neurotransmitter that calms brain activity. Elevated cortisol levels throughout the day and into the evening can suppress melatonin secretion, making it harder to initiate sleep and maintain it through the night. This hormonal and neurotransmitter imbalance contributes to fragmented sleep, characterized by frequent awakenings and shallower sleep, which in turn can lead to an increased proportion of time spent in REM sleep or more abrupt transitions into it, thereby raising the susceptibility to sleep paralysis. Managing stress isn't just about feeling better. It's about rebalancing your brain chemistry for more stable sleep. Incorporating stress reduction techniques into your daily life is thus a proactive and highly effective strategy against sleep paralysis. These techniques are designed to activate the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest branch of our autonomic nervous system, counteracting the effects of chronic stress. One of the most accessible and potent methods is mindfulness meditation. By focusing on the present moment, observing thoughts without judgment, and anchoring attention to the breath, Mindfulness can significantly reduce rumination and anxiety that often plague the mind before sleep. Even just 10 to 15 minutes of daily meditation can recalibrate the nervous system, lowering cortisol levels and promoting a state of calm. Deep breathing exercises such as diaphragmatic breathing are another immediate and powerful tool. Slow, deep breaths activate the vagus nerve, which stimulates the parasympathetic system, slowing heart rate and relaxing muscles. Gentle forms of yoga or stretching also combine physical movement with breath work and mindfulness, releasing muscular tension accumulated from stress and promoting mental tranquility. Engaging in nature walks, listening to calming music, journaling, or spending quality time on hobbies can also serve as effective stress outlets, diverting mental energy from worry and allowing the mind to unwind before bedtime. The goal is to consistently lower the baseline level of daily stress, ensuring that by the time you approach sleep, your body and mind are already in a state conducive to rest. Equally important to managing daytime stress is the establishment of a calming and consistent bedtime routine. This ritual acts as a powerful psychological and physiological signal to your brain and body that the day is winding down and sleep is imminent. Just as children thrive on bedtime routines, adults benefit immensely from creating a predictable sequence of activities that promotes relaxation and prepares the body for rest. This routine should ideally begin at least 30 to 60 minutes before your target bedtime. Activities that stimulate the mind or body should be avoided. This includes intense exercise, engaging in heated discussions, working on complex tasks, or consuming heavy meals or sugary snacks. Instead, focus on activities that promote a sense of calm. A warm bath or shower can be incredibly effective, as the subsequent drop in body temperature after exiting the warm water mimics the natural temperature decrease that facilitates sleep. Dimming the lights throughout your home in the evening helps to stimulate melatonin production, signaling to your brain that it's time to prepare for sleep. Perhaps one of the most significant modern disruptors to sleep and a contributor to bedtime. Anxiety is exposure to screens before bed. The blue light emitted by smartphones, tablets, computers, and even some televisions can suppress melatonin production, delaying sleep onset and disrupting sleep architecture. Moreover, the stimulating content often consumed on these devices, social media, news, thrilling shows can heighten arousal and anxiety. Implementing a strict digital sunset, turning off all screens at least an hour before bed use, a highly recommended component of a calming bedtime routine. Instead of screens, consider reading a physical book, listening to a calming podcast or audiobook, engaging in light stretching, or even practicing gratitude journaling. These activities allow the mind to gently disengage from the day's demands and transition into a more relaxed state. A consistent bedtime routine, personalized to your preferences and consistently adhered to, effectively primes your brain for sleep, making the transition into and out of REM sleep smoother and reducing the likelihood of experiencing the jarring disconnect that precipitates sleep paralysis. By consciously creating a sanctuary of calm before sleep, you actively reduce the physiological and psychological triggers, fostering a sense of safety and predictability that is antithetical to the fear and chaos of sleep paralysis. Okay, let's move forward with the initial comprehensive draft for Section 10, When to Seek Professional Help, Recognizing Persistent or Distressing Episodes. Section 10, When to Seek Professional Help, Recognizing Persistent or Distressing Episodes. While the vast majority of sleep paralysis episodes are isolated, benign occurrences, and often manageable with improvements in sleep hygiene and stress reduction, there are specific circumstances where seeking professional medical or psychological help becomes not just advisable, but genuinely crucial. The terror and distress associated with sleep paralysis, especially when it occurs frequently or intensely, can have a profound impact on an individual's quality of life, leading to anticipatory anxiety about sleep, chronic sleep deprivation, and even daytime dysfunction. It's essential for individuals experiencing sleep paralysis to understand that while it is not inherently dangerous, its persistence or the severity of its accompanying symptoms can sometimes signal an underlying issue that warrants expert attention. Recognizing these indicators and knowing when to reach out to a healthcare professional is a vital step toward effectively managing the condition and ensuring overall well-being. The primary indicator that professional help might be necessary is the frequency of sleep paralysis episodes. If you find yourself experiencing sleep paralysis multiple times a week, or if the episodes are occurring nearly every night, this level of recurrence moves beyond the realm of occasional physiological glitches. Such persistent occurrences suggest a more significant disruption in your sleep architecture or a chronic underlying trigger that might not be easily managed through general lifestyle adjustments alone. Frequent episodes can lead to a state of chronic hypervigilance and a pervasive fear of going to sleep, which in itself can exacerbate the problem by causing more fragmented sleep and increased anxiety around bedtime. This relentless cycle necessitates a more targeted and potentially clinical approach to break free from its grip. A healthcare professional can help identify patterns, evaluate the severity, and explore potential underlying causes that might be contributing to such high frequency, leading to a more effective and personalized treatment plan. Equally important to frequency is the level of distress and impairment caused by the sleep paralysis episodes. Even if episodes are not exceptionally frequent, each one is overwhelmingly terrifying, causing significant emotional distress that lingers throughout the day. Or if the mere thought of them leads to severe anxiety about sleep, then professional intervention is warranted. The psychological impact of experiencing vivid, terrifying hallucinations coupled with complete immobility can be profound, leading to a legitimate fear of sleep. This fear can, in turn, manifest as insomnia, where individuals actively resist going to sleep or struggle to fall asleep out of dread of an episode. Such sleep avoidance behavior inevitably leads to chronic sleep deprivation, which, as we discussed, is a primary trigger for sleep paralysis, creating a cruel and self-perpetuating cycle. If the anxiety about sleep paralysis is impacting your daily functioning, leading to daytime fatigue, difficulty concentrating, irritability, or even symptoms of depression, these are clear signals that the condition is more than just a passing nuisance and requires expert support to manage its psychological fallout. When considering professional help, the first point of contact is often your primary care physician. They can conduct a general health assessment, review your medical history, and rule out any obvious underlying medical conditions or medication side effects that might be contributing to your sleep disturbances. Your doctor can also provide initial guidance on sleep hygiene and stress management. If the episodes persist or if there's a suspicion of a more complex sleep disorder, your primary care physician can then refer you to a sleep specialist. A sleep specialist, typically a neurologist or pulmonologist with expertise in sleep medicine, can conduct more in-depth evaluations, which might include an overnight sleep study, polysomnography, while sleep paralysis itself rarely requires a sleep study for diagnosis. It can be beneficial in ruling out other sleep disorders that sometimes feature sleep paralysis as a symptom, most notably narcolepsy. Narcolepsy is a chronic neurological condition characterized by overwhelming daytime drowsiness and sudden attacks of sleep. And sleep paralysis is one of its cardinal symptoms, along with cataplexy, sudden loss of muscle tone triggered by strong emotions. Differentiating isolated sleep paralysis from narcolepsy is critical for proper diagnosis and management. Beyond medical assessment, cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, specifically cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, CBT, has shown significant promise in addressing the anxiety and behavioral patterns associated with sleep paralysis. While not designed exclusively for sleep paralysis, CBT addresses the thoughts, feelings, and behaviors that interfere with healthy sleep. A therapist trained in CBT can help individuals challenge the irrational fears associated with sleep paralysis, reframe their catastrophic interpretations of episodes, and develop coping strategies to manage the anxiety. Techniques might include relaxation training, stimulus control associating the bed only with sleep, and sleep restriction therapy temporarily limiting time in bed to consolidate sleep. By addressing the psychological distress and behavioral triggers, CBT empowers individuals to break the cycle of fear and improve overall sleep quality, thereby reducing the likelihood of future sleep paralysis episodes. It teaches resilience and self-efficacy, transforming the experience from a source of terror into a manageable aspect of one's sleep life. Remember, seeking professional help is a sign of strength and a commitment to your well-being. Providing access to tailored strategies and expert guidance that can make a profound difference in reclaiming peaceful nights. Having journeyed through the unsettling depths of sleep paralysis, from its precise neurological origins to its terrifying psychological manifestations and strategies for mitigation, it is imperative that we broaden our perspective and conclude. By emphasizing a fundamental truth, the profound and multifaceted power of sleep itself, sleep paralysis, in its disorienting and often frightening nature, serves as a vivid, albeit jarring, reminder of just how intricate and vital the act of sleeping truly is for our overall well-being. It underscores the delicate balance of our brain's activity during the nocturnal hours and highlights the intricate dance between consciousness and unconsciousness that unfolds every night. Far from being a mere passive state of inactivity, it's a simple off switch for the day. Sleep is an incredibly active, dynamic, and profoundly restorative process, absolutely fundamental for the optimal functioning of our mental, physical, and emotional health. Acknowledging this holistic importance of sleep is not just about avoiding distressing phenomena like sleep paralysis. It's about embracing a cornerstone of human health and fostering a deeper appreciation for this essential biological imperative. The holistic importance of sleep extends across virtually every system of the human body and mind. Physically, sleep is the time when our bodies engage in crucial repair and rejuvenation processes. During deep sleep, growth hormone is released, aiding in tissue repair and muscle growth. Our immune system, a complex defense network, works optimally when we are well rested, strengthening its ability to fight off infections and illnesses. Chronic sleep deprivation, conversely, weakens immunity, making us more susceptible to sickness. Metabolically, sleep plays a critical role in regulating hormones that control appetite and glucose metabolism, such as leptin and ghrelin, influencing our weight and risk for conditions like type 2 diabetes. Adequate sleep also supports cardiovascular health, helping to regulate blood pressure and reduce inflammation. From a cognitive perspective, sleep is indispensable for learning, memory consolidation, and problem solving. During sleep, the brain actively processes and consolidates information acquired during the day, transferring memories from short-term to long-term storage. It's also a time for neural housekeeping, where the brain clears out metabolic waste products that accumulate during wakefulness, including amyloid beta, a protein associated with Alzheimer's disease. Emotionally and psychologically, sleep is our primary mechanism for processing and regulating emotions. A well-rested brain is better equipped to manage stress, regulate mood, and exhibit emotional resilience. Insufficient sleep, conversely, can lead to increased irritability, mood swings, heightened anxiety, and an amplified stress response, making individuals more vulnerable to negative emotions and less able to cope with daily challenges. For individuals who experience sleep paralysis, understanding this broader context of sleep's importance can be incredibly empowering. By seeing sleep paralysis not as an isolated curse, but as a potential alarm bell signaling a need for better. Sleep hygiene. One can transform fear into proactive self-care. It emphasizes that investing time and effort into optimizing sleep isn't a luxury, but a fundamental necessity for living a healthy, balanced, and productive life. This holistic perspective moves beyond simply treating sleep paralysis to fostering an environment where it is less likely to occur due to robust sleep health. One incredibly powerful tool in the pursuit of better sleep quality and reduced anxiety, which is particularly relevant in the context of sleep paralysis, is the practice of mindfulness and relaxation techniques. These aren't merely trendy wellness fads. They are evidence-based practices that actively train the mind to achieve a state of calm and present moment awareness, profoundly impacting our physiological and psychological readiness for sleep. Mindfulness involves paying attention to the present moment without judgment, observing thoughts, feelings, and bodily sensations as they arise. When practiced regularly, mindfulness can significantly reduce the monkey mind phenomenon, the incessant worrying and rumination that often plague individuals before bedtime, especially those who fear sleep paralysis. By anchoring attention to the breath or bodily sensations, individuals can break free from cycles of anxious thoughts that elevate cortisol and sympathetic nervous system activity. This conscious shift towards internal peace helps to quiet the overactive mind that can make transitions into and out of sleep so jarring. Specific relaxation techniques complement mindfulness beautifully. Progressive muscle relaxation, PMR, for instance, involves systematically tensing and then relaxing different muscle groups throughout the body. This practice helps individuals become more aware of physical tension and consciously release it, promoting a profound sense of physical relaxation. As the body relaxes, the mind often follows suit. Guided imagery or body scans, where you mentally focus on different parts of your body, or imagine yourself in a peaceful setting, can also be highly effective in diverting attention from anxious thoughts and inducing a state of calm conducive to sleep. For those who experience sleep paralysis, these techniques offer a dual benefit. They help prevent episodes by promoting smoother sleep transitions, and they can provide a sense of agency during an episode. While paralyzed, remembering to breathe deeply and attempting to focus on extremely subtle movements like wiggling a toe or finger, often referred to as wiggling out, can sometimes help to break the atonia and bring full wakefulness. This emphasis on internal control and calm in the face of perceived external threat is a significant step towards reclaiming peace in the night. Ultimately, connecting the experience of sleep paralysis to the broader understanding of sleep and its importance fosters a hopeful message about the human ability to navigate and understand our most frightening sleep experiences, finding peace in the night. By embracing the scientific explanations for sleep paralysis, we strip away the layers of supernatural fear and replace them with knowledge and actionable strategies. This empowers us to view these episodes not as malevolent attacks, but as transient neurophysiological phenomena that can be managed. Prioritizing healthy sleep, incorporating stress reduction, and practicing mindfulness are not just about avoiding sleep paralysis. They are about cultivating a resilient mind and body that can navigate the complexities of sleep with greater ease and confidence. The journey to understanding sleep paralysis ultimately leads us back to the profound realization that sleep is a fundamental pillar of health, a nightly opportunity for restoration and balance. By respecting its power and nurturing its processes, we can transform our relationship with the night, replacing fear with serenity and ultimately finding deep, restorative peace in our slumber. Thank you for joining us on this illuminating journey into the science of sleep. Sweet dreams.